Hi, Polly.
Hello, hello.
So good to see you.
It's so good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
For sure. Welcome to Kind of a Big Deal. And have we talked about this yet? The actual
No,
title.
no, I
Okay,
love
so
it.
this is my nod to the fact that we as women typically tend to kind of brush off the impact that we have, or the like, it's just kind of a big deal. But in truth, our leadership journeys and the careers we build and the lives we build really are a big deal. And so it's my nod to the two sides of the equation.
Love it. Love it.
So I'm so glad you're here. And I typically start with a little tiny background on kind of what our relationship is or how we found each other. So Holly was a speaker at a conference, the same conference actually that I've mentioned in a previous episode through the Leap Academy. Holly also went through the program, and we've talked a lot about kind of what we gained from that experience. But pretty cool full circle moment for her, I might imagine, as she wound up on stage at that conference instead of as a participant in the conference
Absolutely.
earlier this year, which was really, really cool. And I was really struck by how she shared how intentionally she was building what she's building currently. And um, she's the type of person that you might be a little intimidated to reach out to because you're like, she's so cool and she's got so much awesome stuff to say.
Believe me, I knew me in high school. I was never cool.
But now here we are, another full circle moment. It's a little different now. But I will say I took a chance and I reached out and I was immediately met with warmth and an
Mm.
excitement to connect. And so I think that's just a testament to how wonderful you are. And we don't even know each other that well. So I'm excited to get to chat a little bit more with you today.
Thanks so much. I was so glad to connect, especially after that conference. I feel like that program was really foundational in me pivoting from a pretty tough place in my career to something that now is has a lot more joy and lightness in it.
I found this has been kind of a theme actually lately in my conversations, just this recognition that sometimes there are these harder moments, but they
Absolutely.
lead eventually to something that's so much better on the other side. And it's just having to walk through that to actually get there. And it can feel challenging because you don't know what's on the other side. We can't see it, you can't envision it. So you have to walk through it. You're not alone in that. I think many of us have had to pivot. Um, so maybe we'll start there. Just kind of, I know you had mentioned in a conversation we've had previously that you were in a more traditional kind of corporate space before you launched your own company. So maybe give us just a little bit of your background and where you started.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my background is in computer science. I originally done a computer science degree, an undergrad and a master's degree. And I'd worked as a software developer for many years in companies large and small. From behind the scenes, some behind the scenes companies like Schneider Electric, which is like a huge company that no one's heard of because they only sell to businesses, kind of thing. Through to small startups, to Amazon was a place that I'd worked both as a software engineering leader and then eventually transitioned into product management, which is a little more. I somewhere about 10 years into my career, I figured out that my like yen to understand the user and really make sure that everyone's building the right thing, that they're all going to figure out how they're going to fit together. That this was a role called product management, and that was really a deep passion of mine as well. So moving into product management was really exciting. And then most recently, I had landed a role at Amazon, Amazon's Alexa. So working at Amazon Alexa with AI, we were working with the same technologies that underlie ChatGPT back in 2020
Wow.
and launching the very first answers on Alexa that were generative. So we didn't know exactly what Alexa was going to say before she said it. Managing a lot of risk for the first time around people's kids and stuff like that. It was really a highlight of my career. But it is well known to be, high pressure environment, pressure cooker. It is very, male dominated, but it's also just a place that's full of very competitive uh, energy, striving energy that can be a lot for people to deal with, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible that you and we'll get to what you're building now, but so much of it is built, I'm sure, on some of that foundational awareness of what you
Mhm.
were building there. Um, how are you seeing this moment as we, are kind of just full steam ahead with all things
Yeah.
AI? Are you feeling excited? Are you feeling, I imagine excited mostly, but kind
Excited,
of,
excited mostly, and then of course it's like it brings so many opportunities and it brings so many risks.
Mhm.
It's hard because I feel like we don't have a lot we can compare it to in our
Yeah.
lifetimes, right? People like to compare it to the internet. Advent of the internet. I was like, even that is maybe is maybe underselling the biggest changes to our economy and how we work. And I think it's because it's even like more personal. People are finding these personal interactions with AI now, and they're like striving to understand what it means to them to feel attachment to a machine, and what does it mean for our kids, and what kind of skills should we instill in them. I felt like that was clearer in
Mm,
the internet age, where it's like they better learn about computers, they better learn about the internet. Right now, everyone's like, what can I do to like feel valuable in this new age? And pinning that down has been like incredibly elusive, especially when there's so much hype about what they could eventually do someday versus what they
right.
really do today.
Yes. So interesting you just mentioned the kind of human connection side of it because I was talking to my husband the other day and he's like, "Well, have you named your GPT yet?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" No. And he's like, "Oh, mine's Tay." And I'm like, "What do you mean yours is Tay? Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? Excuse me? Like, do I need to feel like in competition with Tay?"
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, all of it is just so interesting because you do feel like even though it's logic based and it's pulling, from particular information, I do ask ChatGPT based on, after months and months of it pulling in from my queries and data and whatnot, it does feel in some ways that it quote unquote knows you. And I can only imagine if it feels like that now,
Yeah,
what it'll feel like in a year or five.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, it's uncanny.
Yeah. And the kid piece, right? I have a 9 and a 6-year-old, and I think all the time about the fact that our education system is certainly not going to get up to speed in the time that it needs to, especially at this moment. So, what do we as parents do to try and supplement some of that education or expose them or share with them?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think the the piece that I hope to instill, like I have three stepkids, and like when people ask what do you think about hoping they'll learn, it's more about like the human side of understanding business, which is already very human, right? Which it comes down to that empathy of like what do people need? What is the pain point they're having? How do they feel it? Of course, ChatGPT could come up with like marketing copy, but you'll know if it actually rings true or not if you've developed those relationships and talked to the people that you're trying to help, right?
That is such a good point. Yeah,
Exactly.
very interesting. I would like to talk about, some of your experience around what it meant to be a female leader in such a
Yeah,
male-dominated space, but maybe let's take it one step further back because
totally.
what I remember, you had started your own business prior to joining Amazon. Is that right? And then
That's
you
right.
launched another company after. So maybe give us just a minute on what you were building prior to joining Amazon. And then second part of that conversation is what feels different this time around as you're building this version of your company.
Absolutely. So the well, I first tried attempted to leave big tech or just like tech companies or working for other people in 2017. I think I'd always had the appeal of like doing consulting, contracting. I really just wanted the freedom to
Yeah.
be able to like work sometimes, take some time off, dial it up, dial it down. I just knew that would suit me. And I also kind of like hopping around from different projects, get bored easily. So I was excited to try that out. But I think I got caught in a sort of a vortex that many people do when they set out to leave working for companies. And that's just not realizing ahead of time how different how courageous, but how different what you're doing really is in terms of um you're so programmed that like you will get validation from someone will tell you what to do and you'll do it and they'll be like good job you know and uh and then we're not necessarily great at doing that for ourselves and acknowledging the wins along the way, you know. So I think I had felt like I was spinning my wheels and not really finding exactly what I wanted to do. I spent a lot of time thinking about what I wanted to do and then changing my mind. Um, and yeah, 3 or 4 months in, I had kind of started panicking, feeling like I'm not finding it. I'm not finding the thing that only I can do. And then it's really easy to get let mindset negativity slip in. Maybe I don't have anything that's special. Maybe this just isn't meant for me. You know, like it was I was found myself fighting my way out of that a lot. And and it just so happened at that point that the guy I was dating, now I'm married to, he was living in the States, I was living in Canada, and he had some like issues crossing the border one time. And it was funny how quickly I was like, oh yeah, I know 3 months ago this was like my life dream, but like now, no, absolutely, I need to live on the same side as the border of you. We need to figure this out. I obviously need to get a job in the States. What kind of companies provide visas for Canadians to live in the States? This is a massive, massive issue. He was kind of like, it's not. I'm like, nope, absolutely. This is life changing. So it's so funny how, too, I see it sometimes in others now where these things that are like minor things, they make big things out of because it's an excuse. Like we will fight so hard to keep the status quo of like feeling safe and what we know. And unless you're like ready for that,
Yeah.
just simply I give myself grace now. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for that and I had no idea. And I had no real supports around me. I didn't know other people who were going through starting a business. I didn't know other people who had done it and like I knew I had some mentors that I could call, but I think it wasn't like I had a community around me.
Yes.
Or a real like hey, step one, do X, you know. So I think that was a really big part of it. So obviously it was my dream job. It ended up being a highlight, like I said, of my career and one of the most intellectually stimulating things I've done, one of the best team where I just really appreciated working with the top tier AI and data science team and getting to learn from them. It was incredible
That's
incredible opportunity. So it was one of those things I don't regret.
totally.
Um, but I think it was interesting. Like I definitely know in retrospect, I could have made it work. And if I had, my plan was at the time was called data product strategy. I think that's or like get data savvy. I had some very high level helping product leaders get deeper into data and understanding the slightly more techie side. And then during COVID, I was like, oh man, if I had an online course right now, I would be killing it. Like there's always, you know, what if that goes into it, right? Obviously, the timing of working in the space of helping product leaders upskill in AI is just as good, if not better, than COVID would have been. Um, so it's funny how when if you take a chance to find the thing that's right for you, often you'll find it leads to being in the right place at the right time.
That is such a beautiful way of saying that because I remember this so well in another conversation we had where you shared that there can be this kind of pressure to find the thing. Like if you are branching out on your own and you are, looking to build that if you don't find the thing that you are the most passionate about, that you are uniquely positioned to solve for, and it is, I think, especially like as women, as perfectionists, right? Not to say that doesn't apply to all genders, but there can be this tendency to like, well, I better nail this thing. Better,
Right. And it has to be for life. Like
yes,
this is your passion.
yes,
So if you
yes,
go out and tell people it's your passion and then you change it 6 months later, you will look
yes.
like such a flake and like this has to be super real and it's a commitment. And it's not.
No, no. And you can evolve, and we do evolve, like everything. You had also shared something, and I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget it. Business growth is personal growth, and I believe in that so wholeheartedly.
Absolutely.
These
Yeah.
two things cannot be bifurcated. That if your business is evolving or you are leading a business that is in some kind of change or shift, that you as a leader and you as a human inevitably go through some kind of evolution yourself. And it's about, I think, recognizing that a little bit and giving grace for yourself because it can also be really uncomfortable,
Yeah.
frankly, to go through those transitions or to navigate those evolutions. But I think another point you made that's one of the biggest hacks that I think everyone would do well to find is who are your people, who's your community, and how do you surround yourself
Absolutely.
with the folks that are going to be not just cheering you on because it's like rah rah, that's all
Yeah.
well and good, but
Yeah,
it's
you have friends.
yes, that's
Friends.
fantastic,
Yeah.
but it's other people that are either also seeking something that may not be exactly what you're seeking, but it is something more than what they have in this moment, or they're looking to shift or build or leap or whatever you want to call it. And I think that I had no idea how much that would mean until, I got about a year and a half into branching out on my own when it starts to feel like the rubber's hitting the road a little bit more and you're like, oh,
Oh, yeah. It has to actually work.
yes, because to your point, if you have been either in corporate or more traditional kind of employment space for a long time, which I had as well,
Yeah.
I did not do great with the wide open pastures in the very beginning. Like I really was a great rule follower in my day-to-day, 9 to 5, and I knew exactly how to position my day to be the most efficient, to do the things, and nothing wrong with that at all, but it does not apply to when you're out on your own. It just doesn't. You have to create those systems for yourself, or you have to build new pillars, and it takes time,
Yeah.
and it is not easy.
Totally. And yeah, it is one of those things when people, ask about how do you the most questions I get is just like, well, how did you do it? Because it's like a lot of people have like mental ideas of like they think they know what to do, but it's like somehow they just can't sit down day after day and make themselves do it.
Yeah.
And
Yes. Yes.
I think the most motivating thing for me was the clarity that came. Actually, it was from Alana's program, from that LEAP program where we met at the conference, right? Which was that action or clarity comes through action.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I think I've just absorbed this from other places as well, that idea of like feel the fear, but do it anyway. Like the number of times, especially early days,
Yeah.
I could feel myself and recognize, okay, I'm coming up with a reason I can't do X and recognizing that it's an excuse. And so you're like, oh man, like I'm really sorry. You're going to have to do it scared.
Yes.
And
Yes.
how few things we do when you're working in a corporate space, we do scared,
Yeah.
right? A lot of it is around organizing around psychological safety. And we have managers that make sure we feel prepared and aren't going to like let us just totally flounder and fail in front of important people, hopefully. And now it's on you. You don't know what you don't know. You might you that like actually taking that chance of you have to fail and feeling the fear and doing it anyway. But
Yeah.
that's what led me to like I'm going to call and have conversations with people who might be interested in this and actually really understand what the pain points were and use those same words back in the marketing I'm using in the webinar. It's actually not I thought marketing and sales were these big like rocket science Jedi mind trick skills, and it's like find someone who has a problem, help them. That's really
You're totally right. I think that I did something similar, which was go on, which actually is what led me to starting this series, was I went on this kind of listening tour of, when I closed my eyes and thought of like, who do I really want to work with? Who do I want to serve? And every time I closed my eyes, it was a badass woman I've either worked with or for, or would love to work with or for. And because so much of my work has been in these moments of evolution, I was like, all right, this feels like the right kind of pulling together of who I want to work with or who I want to support and what my longtime experience has been. And so that was the first thing I did was I reached out to some of those women that I had as my like, gosh, I would just kill
yeah,
work with this person, or oh man, I remember from 10 years ago when we worked together and she was so incredible. And those conversations, that is what actually helps you, I think, build for what you're trying to solve, because you can make a lot of assumptions.
yeah,
And I was also
yeah,
about, what those pain points might be, but you uncover so much from
right,
those chats, and you, of course, start to see some interesting patterns and some things that all feel somewhat relevant across the thread, no matter what kind of stage the person's in, whether it's building a business or leading a team of 1,000.
Totally.
there's something in that through line that kind of resonates for all. So yeah, I would highly recommend that for anybody
Like,
that's thinking about doing this work, especially if you're service oriented. Like, go talk to
exactly.
your
That was the thing. As I was like, maybe I just don't know enough non-service oriented people,
yeah.
but I think I was very afraid that I'm not motivated by money enough. That I'm like, I really need to make enough money to live, and I was like, that's not motivating me. I'm going to start and die. So like, you know, but every time I talk to someone, and it wasn't like I help leaders thrive in AI. It was like, no, like Jessica has been working really, really hard to get into this space for 5 years, and she just doesn't understand what she's missing. And she's got these kinds of roles. And I think I could, well, what would I do to help her? You
Yes.
know?
Yes.
It's like that was what really helped me gel was like, okay, let's find some common problems. Okay, do we have enough people with this problem to do it as a group workshop? Um, that was the thread that I pulled that helped me
Yeah.
stay motivated and keep going.
Yeah.
Because just frankly, like earning enough money wasn't enough, or it would take you to like getting just barely enough,
Yeah.
and maybe you're fine, right? And when really it's like you recognize, hey, what I'm doing is really important and really impactful. It's important that I grow it so I can impact more people. Okay, now I'm motivated, right?
Yes. Yes. No, I feel that 100%. Um, I think this is a good moment to kind of share a little bit more about what you are building because this is a good transition from, you have shared with me too that as you were thinking about the foundation for this current company that you're building, it was that you wanted actual kind of representation and leadership in this emerging space and how can we help more people? And I mean, it really is an incredible way to think about building a business, not to just be in service of a bottom line, but how am I going to have a real impact in a space that is, still somewhat, I don't, controversial is not the right word, but there is a lot of talk about, what is our responsibility as builders in these spaces to make sure that we're being inclusive and that we're bringing in the right voices. So that was something that really struck me as you were sharing about what you were building. So I'd love for you to give a little bit of what you're up to.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. So my company's called AI Career Boost, and we run workshops, boot camps for product leaders generally, although we have definitely worked with folks who are interested in anybody who wants a little more depth in understanding how software products that have AI under the hood are developed. Um, and so folks have come from design, project management, a big one, marketing. There's a different life cycle to and different risk considerations to mitigate when you're building AI products than traditional software products. A lot of those we went through the bumps firsthand at Alexa and came up with best practices and ways to mitigate them that worked and got things launched and working at scale. That's a lot of organizations are going through that bumpy ride themselves right now. And then yeah, the diversity angle is so interesting to me because I had always worked in a male dominated industry. I remember sort of being the 10 to 20% in the software development world. And for years and years and years, I'd not let it bother me, or like I didn't think it bothered. It didn't at the time. I didn't think it bothered me, right? Um, it was kind of cool to be like, hey, there's not very many women here. And I definitely felt like I had done a lot of adaptation though in my career to feel like one of the guys, I don't want them to feel uncomfortable around me. I'll tell raunchier jokes than they
Yeah.
do. So no, I can hang, this kind of thing. Um, and like it felt like a little bit of, definitely moments where I had to prove myself. Maybe I wouldn't have if I was a different demographic, right? But it wasn't really until I was deep into AI teams that I was really, really frustrated to see that it was getting. I had thought that this would be something that like could increase, the inclusion that you see of folks other than other than white and Indian dudes, basically in the who's building this.
Yeah.
And it was really sort of skewing the other way. I remember being in a meeting of like um 30 people. I was promoted to principal PM, and it was like that team, sort of the leadership team, was 30 people in a room, and the only women were me and the executive assistant. And just like strange things that happen when you're the only woman in the room, where at least in meetings where there's like another woman, you have someone to commiserate with afterwards and just say like, hey, that idea was also great when you brought it up
Yeah.
first. Like, so you're not going crazy, right? And I remember I spent a lot of time. It was like a little bit of a mental tax to kind of always go like, okay, am I making this up?
Yes.
Is this happening because I'm a woman? Am I making too big a deal about this in my own head? Do I need to let it go? At what point do I actually need to bring this up to someone? And just like continually trying to let it go, let it go, let it go over time. And so it was definitely something that I think was part of my eventual like basically burnout and leaving Amazon, was that kind of overhead and tax of just like, okay, is this I'm always striving to improve. I'm trying to see what I'm doing wrong or where I can be better, because that's like the mindset always. And then you're like, okay, but is there something here that's happening that's really not fair? And how can I bring this up in a way that's productive and it's going to lead to the results I want and isn't like combative? And like that's so much mental energy to try to think of ways that you can do that, right? So it's a lot of gymnastics
Well,
to
and then you shared with me, and I hope it's okay to share this. And but even in a review, it wasn't even about your technical abilities. You were labeled shrill
yeah.
by someone. Is that right? Am I remembering?
I had heard, I wasn't supposed to know this, but I had heard from
Okay.
the
Yes.
party that like this had come up in the review, and that like the the idea of like she's great, but she's shrill about things like legal concerns.
Which
It's
is,
something-
I just can't. It's like, I mean, shout out to Lindy West, who, if anyone has not read her work, she literally has a book,
yeah,
Shrill, and it's about this exact experience, which is it is about how people expect you to show up as
yeah,
a human, not about your ability on the job or what you bring to the table. And that's wild. I mean, the fact that
yeah,
it's not wild because we all have experienced this in some way, shape, or form, most of us, anyways. And, these kind of things continue to just undercut the real contributions of people like yourself who were pivotal in shaping a massive piece of technology. And I mean, it has led to you building something incredible, which is amazing, but bummer that they lost you because it could have been a supportive environment.
yeah, exactly. And it speaks to like I'm pretty sure in that review environment there were no women in the room,
Right.
right? Like I
Yes.
don't know that for sure, but like there's a different reaction to that word that we have just because of an awareness and a lived experience
Right.
that some organizations, maybe who have more long-term view, are going to say, "Oh, I appreciate having someone in the room who can like raise the red flag
Yeah.
and give opportunities to raise the red flag of like, hey, you know, what's the feedback mechanism to say there's something off here,
Yeah.
right? And that we need to address." I just don't think like, and there's an element of some organizations are either blind to that or like actually don't want it at this moment, are resistant to it, are like, we're not going to provide those feedback mechanisms. We don't care.
Right.
That's not the kind of thing we're optimizing for right now,
And
but I
maybe that
think
has to
there's
be
to their detriment.
intentionally. Yes, it's like almost we talk a lot about culture in organizations, right? But it to me, there's not one size fits all, but you do have to intentionally share what your culture is in some way.
Yeah.
If that is the case and you are brought in to be a worker bee or do the thing or and we're not asking for your feedback, you can't put it out there like you are. You can't make it
Yeah.
seem like this is meant
We're
to be.
super open culture and trust and yeah.
Forget it. Like that doesn't that the bait and switch is never going to work. But I
Yeah.
think if you can
No.
just say out loud, like, you know what, we are building and we're building fast, and right now, bottom line means everything. Please keep your opinions to yourself. Honestly, that is another culture, but you're intentionally setting something in a way that people now know how they are expected to show up, and I
Yeah.
think that's a huge piece of it for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, it's just crazy how I feel like the darker side of big tech culture is just being amplified in AI in particular right now. it was already a place where something like 15% of AI researchers are women. It's less than computer science, which is less than any other of the sciences. Like it has actually decreased since the 1980s, whereas every single other branch of science, the participation by women has increased. Um, and I remember basically it feels like a personal frustration, but I felt like if what I could do at my company was just make sure people like me had just one other woman in the room. And it wasn't necessarily that they had to be an engineer or a PhD in AI, but there were other leadership positions that could move laterally into that space and participate, but were being kind of geek kept out of it because they were afraid of the technology. Because as soon as people start talking tech, so many people are like, "Oh, coding. There's no way I can like read or look at code," and very very resistant to like. It's like everyone's afraid they're suddenly going to be given an interview and asked to code on the whiteboard or something. It's like no one's going to do that to you. Chill, right? But I meet so many people. I'm not a coder. I'm not a coder, and I'm like, okay, like that's fine. You can still understand how these systems are built. You can understand the concept of like it can't be slow, or if we have more people, it's going to reach its capacity. Like these are standard operations, concepts
Yes.
that just happen to be executed in code, but to actually have the real discussions about how this is going to impact our users and the right questions to ask with the tech team. I saw way too many people feeling super, super intimidated by that. And then you're like, oh, and then you add AI on top of it. That's even more techy and more obscure. So really the goal of AI Career Boost was to help folks who are already at like leadership levels learn tech and AI concepts top down instead of like bottom up and having to go back and do a computer science degree or a PhD, like a lot of people felt like they would have to in order to really participate in leading these teams. Because so often I had found that like even though I had a really deep tech background, that wasn't the most valuable thing I was bringing to the table, right? It was often that user perspective or that sensibility, taste in what should be going out. Um, there's more and more right now in the news about developers are going to be like take over and be the new product managers and that kind of thing. And that will work to a point, but there's an element of like part of what you develop as taste and what the users will like is being out and interacting with people and empathizing with them.
Yep.
There's not a lot of people who really want to do both angles of that, and it's a lot of context switching, and I still think there's going to be this deep need for the people who can translate user pain points and possible solutions and what's going to hit to the folks who are more interested in going technically deep on how do we make sure this doesn't fall over? How do we make sure it's fast enough? How do we make sure it's all it's within its guardrails, right?
Yes. I love that. I think yes, 100%. It requires empathy to your point. It requires curiosity about, the
Yeah.
people you serve or the people that you're working around and for. Right. So I think that's a really, a good kind of moment for you to maybe share a little bit more about the actual course or the program that folks go through when they come
Yeah,
to find
absolutely.
you.
So one of the biggest gaps I'd found was that people were eager to learn, but the concepts around AI, but didn't know how to get hands-on or apply it. There was a lot of like theoretical, hey, YouTube video, here's how, here's the difference between machine learning and generative AI, that kind of thing. But actually getting hands-on and then even communicating these new skills to an audience were kind of areas that where there were really big gaps. So the blueprint is really aimed at addressing all three. So of course there's basic, AI knowledge that we aim to bring people up to speed with. In a way that really helps them sort the hype from factuality. Like, let's read the Apple paper that everyone's freaking out about and understand how much is true. There's also a big part of the program is building a capstone project, and we help along the way. So each of the labs over the 8-week program is focused on a different no-code tool to learn to build with a variety of those no-code tools out there. There's a big emphasis on developing prototyping as a new skill, since these new AI tools can help you do that so much, and get out to validate things in the market really easily and quickly. But then, yeah, we also really have a track all around. Hey, how can I make sure I'm presenting this at work in a way that will get me chosen to be on that tiger team that's investigating AI, or I'm looking to transition to a new role. How do I think about the new questions I'll be asked in interviews? How should I work in AI at the level I'm at into my LinkedIn profile? Being sure they won't suddenly ask me to code on a whiteboard in the interview. um, and how can I show the signals and proof points they're looking for? There's far too few people who have this experience in the market right now. So the folks who do are really able to and are able to convey that, are really able to leverage that into new roles, raises, working on things they're passionate about, which is often what we find people are coming for, is just feeling a little more control and agency in their careers. So it's been so rewarding to see some of the things people have built. We do attract about 50% women. So it's for men or women, but I love being able to be as inclusive as possible that way. And making sure that we're kind of replicating a bit of a work environment, but possibly more supportive and more
Yeah.
empathetic than some people's work environments out there, and a place to really learn and grow without any judgment, but building something that really is both you're passionate about and something that'll really showcase your strengths that we've devised together.
Yeah.
I'm really, really proud of the
Yeah.
projects that people have been turning out, whether they're founders, consultants, or product leaders coming through.
Can you share one or two
Oh,
kind of like
absolutely. There's been some
ideas
really,
or
really fun ones. So one of my favorites was a custom GPT that one woman made to actually help you adapt your workouts for where you are in your menstrual cycle.
oh yeah.
I was so glad. Everyone I've spoken to is like, give it to me. And at the same time, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is the farthest thing from like an Elon tech bro circle we could get. That makes me so happy.
Yeah.
We've had folks to do some really interesting things around, like when you're shopping for a condo and you need to go through the reams of paperwork and understand, like, hey, what are the problems with this potential condo that I need to look at and sell? There's vast amounts of information that can be summarized for you, highlighting the problems. That was a really interesting one. A recipe builder, one of my favorites. You know how you have to scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll through all the SEO stuff to get to a recipe? Yeah. So
Yeah.
one student built a place where you can pop in the URL. It'll just simply pull out the recipe, but you can also personalize it then for like, do you need it
Yeah.
non-dairy? Do you need it local ingredients, organic, that kind of thing, and save the recipe that way? Yeah. So like these are some of the simple quick ones that people have built. We've had some more intensive things like stock price trading algorithms that work at super high latency and things like that as well. So it's been fascinating to see what people are turning out.
I love that you're sharing examples that feel like they are
Yeah,
somewhat
relatable.
accessible to people that don't feel like it's this, you have to kind of brush off some of the veneer of what feels like this kind of like big, scary, when it's really, if you can get your hands dirty and actually kind of learn modeling and understand it in a different way, I think it's like with anything, it gives you such a different relationship to the technology. So I think
Yeah.
that's so cool. And yeah, I don't need to read 75 pages of why you created this recipe. I just want to
Nope,
have the
backstory
recipe.
and what got through up that day, blah blah blah.
you know? Um, Last real question before we get to kind of where folks can find you. Part of what I work on with women is as you're in these moments of evolution, like how are you tethering that to what you want your future life to feel and look like? And so a lot of that is around legacy in my mind, that what we're doing now is building towards the legacy, not only that we're going to leave, but literally the legacy that we're building toward. So I always like to ask people, what does building a legacy mean to you?
Oh, I feel I think it means it comes back to that simplicity of that question of like it's much like that question of like, hey, how do I find my life's passion and go and do that? And it's this big high pressure thing, right? Similarly, like a legacy is only a big thing because it's built slowly, day by day, and incrementally. And like, I think if so, that leading with find a person who has a problem, help them. And if you just do that over and over again, you will build a legacy, right? It's pretty simple, right? There's a little of like start with the end in mind, but in my case, it's almost like built more forward in terms of who crosses your path that needs your help and you can help. There's no
Better person to be doing it than you in this space right now. So so cool to hear your story and kind of what brought you to this moment. Where can people find you? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of folks that are
Absolutely.
really
Connect with me on
interested because
LinkedIn.
this.
Give me a follow there. I've got a newsletter, a weekly newsletter on LinkedIn, as well as on my website, aicareerboost.com. And we also do a monthly masterclass, so the Path to AI Product Leadership for anyone who might be interested in our programs. With monthly masterclass is free, where we go through the skills that you need to build to thrive and lead in this new AI era. The next one's happening June 25th. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
perfect. Great. What and then what happens after which one after June 25th? Do you know
Oh,
what
for
the
the next
next
free
date is
masterclass?
after?
I think we'll be doing one
Yeah,
in late July. Just send you the
in
link to
July.
the,
Okay,
but it's
perfect.
you can sign up at aicareerboost.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. So good to see you and
Thanks
to hear
so
more about
much.
your story.
Wonderful to be here. Thanks again.
Bye.